Okay, so I've just been catching up on some of the weekend audios, post-match reaction, and there's one interview in particular that caught my attention, and that was Paul Warne after Rotherham's 2-1 defeat at Doncaster, South Yorkshire derby. They were 1-0 up at half-time, deservedly ahead, the better team for the first half, possibly an hour, and then Doncaster came at them, looking for the equaliser, really picked up the game in the second half, and Rotherham conceded and then conceded again late on and ended up losing the game 2-1, having looked like they were in control. And then it prompted Warne afterwards to talk about mentality issues and psychology issues, the mental toughness of the players being able to dig in those periods when things aren't going the way, and to kind of just weather the storm. And he's already pointing to possible mentality issues. It's not the first time this season he's gone down those lines, which is a surprise in a sense because it's half a new team. So if he's seeing something early or not, whether it's the players that came down from last season, relegated last season, or whether it's the new players that have come in that he's got concerns about, I'm not entirely sure. I think it was 5 or 6 of the starting 11 on Saturday were from last season. You're basically talking half a team from last season, half a team that's come along in the summer. But I made a point on my anti-post course over the summer pre-season coverage about mentality issues with Rotherham and about the fact that I thought they should have stayed up in the Championship last season. I thought they had enough to stay in the division, and I was disappointed in them that they didn't make a better fist of it, that they didn't at the very least take it down to the final day. I mean, if we go down, I do like Warne as a manager. This is my one reservation about him, though. He has built a real identity there. He's, he this team now that he's created over the summer, or replenished, or however you want to look at it, is very much in the mould of the Rotherham team from 2 seasons ago that got promoted, and the team from last season. It doesn't matter how much business he does coming in and out. The identity of the team remains very much the same. The very, very energetic, in your face, kind of, aggressive, physical team. A lot of crosses into the box, big aerial presence. Can be quite direct at times, but very, very aggressive without the ball, trying to get it back. His background is as a fitness coach, and he was a very reluctant leader when he came into the club. I think a lot of people remember his first ever interview with the Football League paper when he talked about himself feeling like a fraud, that he wasn't meant to be a football manager. He's not supposed to be a football manager. That was the general gist of it. I think he's a very humble guy, overly humble sometimes, and doesn't give himself enough credit from time to time for certain things that he's done. But yeah, so they were the first signs. His background is as a fitness coach, and when Rotherham promoted 2 seasons ago, they were the fittest team in League One without a shadow of a doubt. They finished the season so strong. XG ratio, all the performance metrics were fantastic towards the end of the season. They went into the playoffs, won the playoffs against Shrewsbury in extra time at Wembley, and looked like they could have kept going for another couple of months, as if they weren't ready for the end of the season. They were just really got themselves into a rhythm and were just so strong, such stamina in the physical sense. And I was really hoping that last season, had they stuck around and been on the coattails in the relegation battle towards the end of the season, I really did believe that one of the others down there would crumble. And my eyes were particularly on Wigan. But they really disappointed me, Rotherham, in the second half of the season, that they didn't even take it down to the wire. And there was numerous six-pointers against those teams at the bottom where they either lost or had to settle for a point and should have been really looking to win those games. I seem to recall, as one example, he went to Millwall and drew 0-0 the weekend after Millwall beat Everton in the FA Cup. And in the build-up to the game, I remember thinking, this is a big opportunity for Rotherham here, that Millwall are, big chance of an after the Lord Mayor's show performance from the Lions. And if they go there and go about it in the right way, this could be their first away win of the season. This could be a huge result for them. in terms of the survival battle. As it was, they played at a 0-0 and seemed happy with a 0-0. And Neil Harris spoke afterwards about the most physical, aggressive team he'd come up against, and was, almost as if, we'll take a point, which kind of, Millwall, the kind of gives you a clue in itself that was an opportunity missed, I think, for Rotherham. Again, Wigan at home was another big 6-pointer. They absolutely battered them for 45 minutes. Conceded on the stroke of half-time to go in 1-1, and then weren't the same team in the second half. Admittedly, Wigan weren't going to be as bad as they had been in the first half, and there was going to be some sort of reaction, but it was almost as if Rotherham were accepting, maybe it's not our day then, we should have been 3-0 up at half-time, it's only 1-1. Second half petered out. Losing away at Ipswich when the better team, losing away at Bolton, numerous results there in the second half of the season, but it all goes back to Warne's framing of the season and framing of the division. Personally, I think he was scarred by the fact that he was thrown into such a miserable situation when they were relegated in his first season, breaking all sorts of records. He was just kind of in at the deep end. There's not really much he could have done with that team that he inherited. It was destined to be a shambles from the off, and he seemed scarred by it. He seemed happy with draws too often last season. He's a real scarcity mindset in his, when he's talking about fixtures, forthcoming fixtures, the division in general. Phrases like away games, points away from home in the Championship are like gold dust. And, I'm not sure that sets the right focus for the players. I think the players have, I think it tends to filter through. I think it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy in the end. That, you talk down your team's chances too often and talk up the opposition and the level, that it starts to have an effect. So I made this point in the summer to subscribers, a bit of pushback. A few people didn't agree with the fact that Rotherham should have stayed up, and that that they should be disappointed that they were relegated. But I was pointing to the fact that it would be interesting to see the mentality now this season, because they're going to be favourites for most games. They're going to be expected to be in the thick of the promotion race, and yet already I'm hearing after the Tranmere game when they conceded late. The weekend before last, I'm already hearing Warne saying, I don't think it's fair that people are saying we should be favourites for this division. There's a lot of good teams. Again, it's that scarcity mindset for me. I think they're a very aggressive team physically, but they don't always match it with the mindset. And I think that's where the mental toughness comes from. Yet Warne the other day after the Doncaster defeat says, I think it's a mental toughness issue, but what can I do about it? I'm not going to start bringing boxing gloves into training, as if, physical and mental toughness are one and the same thing. So it's a concern now. I think it's something that needs to be addressed. It's not the first time Warne's talked about psychological frailties this season. He also mentioned players not necessarily enjoying the fact that they were expected to win. That was when they lost at home to Lincoln in the first home game of the season. He alluded to something then, that he wasn't sure that his players were comfortable with the onus of being favourites for the game, expected to win. So it's something to keep an eye on. I think it's something that needs to be addressed, but I think it starts with Warne himself. I think Warne's got an obligation to mind what he's saying in his press conferences, because I think if that's any indicator of the kind of things he says to the players day in, day out on the training ground, I think he's probably doing himself no favours. I think he needs to talk up his team a little bit more. I think he needs to embrace the role that Rotherham should be one of the big hitters at this level, and other teams should be frightened of them. And I think that's where it starts. But it's like I say, it's one to keep an eye on. I think Rotherham as a side should certainly be top six, based on the qualities that they shown 2 years ago, and the fact that they've got a clear identity even when they change personnel, and the fact that Warne is able to impose the way he wants to play on so many teams. But yeah, I think the remarks he comes out in press conferences is something he should monitor, and something he should be careful about.